Today's broadcast is brought to you by Danny Hauger Music. Danny Hauger Music, available on iTunes, Amazon, and wherever digital music is sold. Get the new album Together Now on bandcamp.com for only $1 or pay what you want. Visit dannyhauger.podbean.com for more details, and don't forget to subscribe to Danny Hauger Podcasts on iTunes. Today on the show, Danny Hauger and James Ryan visit the California Auto Museum and take in a world of great history. The roadway to an adventure awaits you at the California Auto Museum at 2200 Front Street in Old Sacramento. Go visit today. We had a wonderful time. Our docent Bob was so knowledgeable, and you're going to hear firsthand stories from Bob and the museum. And James and I try out a Model T Ford. So lots of fun here. Enjoy the podcast, brought to you by Danny Hauger Music and Danny Hauger Podcasts. Welcome into another exciting edition of Danny Hauger Podcast, here today with our special guest,
James Ryan.
And we're here at the California Auto Museum in Sacramento, California, just down the road from Old Town. And the current exhibit that will be on display for a little bit longer here is Camping in Style, Little Homes on Wheels. And it's like we've been transported back in time. We've come in looking at some of the amazing exhibitions here, and you'll hear some audio from us as well as a docent from the museum in today's edition of Danny Hauger Podcast Presents. Come on in, won't you?
Sure. And it's easy to give a tour on something you're interested in.
Right. And I think that personal passion in anything that you do, in any place that you are, right, plays such a big role in it, because people know when you're passionate about something, it comes across. Yes. And it creates connections. It creates a more memorable experience, I think, for everyone who's visiting, too.
Yes.
Definitely a strong sense of ownership.
Yes. And not only that, if you don't like my tour, the next guy's going to give you a completely different tour.
Right.
Now, we share a lot of the stuff, so you'll see some of the similar things. But basically, and so under that, I love docenting here.
When you first came into this museum, has this been a lifelong interest of yours?
I think automobiles always had an interest, and I think most guys you would find to have at least some interest in it. And I think that carries over. I was not super knowledgeable about cubic inches and all this kind of stuff, but I had an interest in the cars.
So what is it that drew you to this museum, and what is it about that same feel that you think people will enjoy when they come visit the museum here?
Oh, what drew me? I think the variety of the cars, the fact that, like our old schoolmaster says, most car museums display the car's art. We like to say we display this history. We have little stories to tell about the individual cars. And when you learn about this being my favorite one, you don't get me started, because I could go on for an hour on this car. This car you're looking at is 1933 Lincoln KB that belonged to A.P. Giannini, the founder of Bank of America.
Wow.
And the history of A.P. Giannini with the California, I don't know if you're that familiar with him, but he was so instrumental in agriculture and banking and everything in California. I always tell people that's one of the first cars across the Golden Gate Bridge, because he actually did the bond issue to build the bridge.
And I would imagine when you're walking through this museum and you look at these automobiles that you are exploring the history of California and the history of our country as well. Just everything is tied together in one, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And, of course, California, automobiles in California, I think they kind of go together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. We love our cars here.
Yes.
Great. Well, we'll have a little walkthrough, and if you have anything that you want to point out to us along the way of interest.
One thing I'd like to tell you, maybe a little basic history of the museum itself.
Great.
I don't know if you remember the Bill Harris collection. You're probably too young, but Bill Harris, Harris Casinos and everything, had a collection of maybe 1,500 cars. Beautiful cars. I'm from West Virginia. I came out here and
I went to Morgantown last year on
Is
a
that
visit
right?
for a friend. Yeah, I went to a basketball game there.
Oh,
loved it.
My alma mater.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. I hear it's everyone's alma mater if you want to live out that way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm losing my train of thought now that you got me out. Anyways,
sorry. I went Mountaineer territory and we lost it. Sorry.
No. And so I went to that museum. I'd never seen a Duesenberg in my life. Being from West Virginia, you don't see many Duesenbergs driving around. And so I went into that collection. There's 13 of them lined up. I was just amazed. But when Bill Harris died, the family didn't want to continue with the business, so they sold it to Holiday Inn. As I was told, Holiday Inn they wanted the 2 hotels and casinos. They said, what's this asset we have over in this little town called Sparks? They didn't know that they got those cars. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I heard this, that they made enough money selling those cars to pay for both the hotels. That's how extravagant that thing was. But because they were getting rid of those cars and they sold them off. The guys here just having coffee at the Del Prado restaurant in town. It's an old restaurant, it's no longer here. They decided, why don't we start a car museum? They were smart enough to do something that Bill Harrod didn't do. They formed a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Sure. We were the first one, I think, west of the Mississippi to do that. The only trouble, we didn't have any cars or didn't have a building.
Well, yeah.
Small
that,
thing,
yeah, small details.
Well, one of the guys meeting there says, I'll start off with my car. It's that 1938 bright red Buick there. And John Joyce gave us that car, so we now have a car. Well, sending out newsletter in it, they run into a guy named Edward Towe, Towe, up in Montana. He had the largest collection of any one make of cars in the world. They happen to be Fords. We opened up as the Towe Ford Museum. Now, what Mr. Towe didn't tell us, though, that he was having a problem with the IRS. The IRS marched in here, and this is described to me by one of the founders. Okay. It was a young lady with a clipboard and a couple big guys back of her, said, we're here to confiscate all the cars. And of course, he's shocked. And then he says, well, what are you going to do with the cars? They said, well, I don't know. Maybe, I guess we'll have to put them in a warehouse somewhere. And he looked at them and said, what do you call this?
Where are we exactly? Yeah.
This is a warehouse. And so they huddled together and they determined they're going to keep the cars here. They were marked. They weren't allowed to be moved. And the museum, which is separate from the collection, just kept open as normal. They actually auctioned the cars off here. Okay. Fortunately, one family bought these early Fords, very historic Fords that you're looking at here, and kept them in the museum. So some of the historic Fords are still here. But it almost helped the museum because we became the Towe Auto Museum. And I was told we had like 160 people calling us and telling us they want to put their car in our museum. So we had no trouble filling it.
That's amazing. So that's an amazing origin story of how this came to be. And it's funny because the people who come in, they would just turn to their left and see all these old cars and maybe not be familiar, but hopefully they'll listen to the story and get a little more, or they'll meet with you as you come in. That's great. So is there an organization of the layout? Do we progress through time? Do we progress from vehicles here?
For the most part, yes. We would start back here, and you can see that where the horse is standing, of course, that was early mode of transportation. And the car to the left of it is a replica of Henry Ford's first car, a quadricycle he built in 1896. And so we go from that progressively all the way around to, in the corner, you'll find fuel cell cars, electric cars, everything there. One thing we have separate, we have race cars in a little separate area.
Okay, great.
Basically.
Okay, great.
Now, a little more of the history. You go try to raise funds, and you're the Towe Auto Museum. Let Mr. Towe take care of that. They think it's a private collection, and we've always been a nonprofit.
Right.
And so it's hard to raise funds. So a few years back, we changed our name to the California Automobile Museum, which is almost exactly the name they wanted to start with. But when you meet Mr. Towe, and he's going to fill your place with all these cars, use his name, of course.
Okay, great. So James and I are about to get a lesson on driving a Model T. You said a 1913? 1913 Model T. Sitting in the driver's seat right now.
I might have been the last person to drive this car.
Okay.
But someone gave us this nice black one over here in 1914. It's in better condition, so we retired this guy. Wow. He's old tired because every docent here has driven this car, basically.
Oh, amazing.
So every docent has learned to drive a Model T. Okay, where do you think the gas is?
Well, I'm thinking it's the pedal on the right. Am I wrong?
No, you're wrong. Here's the gas. Okay, we'll idle it here to
on my right hand?
Yeah.
Very strange for a turn signal. But for mine.
Okay. These pedals are clamps inside the transmission. Okay. That one's the brake that you were pressing thinking it was the gas.
Yep.
You can press those. That's the brake.
Okay.
Now, the left one, you press that down to the floor.
Left foot, right foot.
That left foot, press it to the floor, give it some gas. Hold it to the floor.
Okay.
Not too much gas. You're going too fast. Leave it down. Okay.
Oh, no. I crashed a 1913 Model 4.
You're in low gear.
Okay.
You get it up to speed. You just let that up.
Let it up. Got it.
You're in high gear. It's only
That's
two
it.
speeds.
2 speeds.
That's all you had to do to drive a Model T. Now, the trouble is you want to come to a stop.
Yeah.
You have to hold that halfway down.
Halfway down.
And the hardest thing, if you've driven a stick shift, when you come to a stop, you have to fight your left foot.
Did he tell you he's Henry Ford's dad?
Yes.
How you feeling, buddy?
Good. Okay, so you're holding that in the middle, and
Yeah.
you kind of have to feel it because it wants to go because that thing is slipping on the inside and everything. Okay, so you're doing that. You bring it to a stop while you're having neutral.
All right. Bring it to a stop.
Get your gas off.
Gas
Okay.
off.
Now, you lift off that, leave this in neutral, lift up that foot,
Yeah.
press this middle pedal,
Okay.
and give it some gas.
Okay. Give it some gas.
You're going backwards. That's reverse.
Okay.
Now,
I'm never going to complain about driving
We
again.
would have never
Okay,
survived the
now-
20s.
Picture this. At the time, half the people in the world who were driving cars were driving Model T Fords. That's the one thing that Henry Ford did. He got the price down to where the average person could afford a car.
Wow.
Well, that's also why he was the first. Ford Automotives was the first to increase their wages for their workers, so that their workers could
$5 a day.
afford what they were building. Yeah.
And mainly, one of the reasons he did that was that it was a big turnover. People, are doing routine things. They did that. He says, well, if I pay them $5 a day, they're going to stay, and I've trained them, and they're going to stay. And so I think that might be at least one of the reasons
Makes
that
sense.
he did that. But that was quite a bit. I don't know if that doubled. I don't quote me on this. That might have doubled what the normal person would get at the time.
Yeah, after doing a walkthrough here at the California Auto Museum here in Sacramento, it's just been a wonderful tour, not just through automobile history, but a tour of California and, in fact, United States history as well. I can't thank Bob and Tony enough. And, Bob, you want to talk about a specific event that our listeners might be interested in coming out for?
Yes, we came up with this second Saturday tour. It's at 2 o'clock. I think we're going to change the time to 10. But it's a second Saturday, an individual docent can come up with his own subject. And so they asked me, and on the second Saturday, which was April 9th, I'm going to give one on our special 3 Lincolns. We have the Lincoln that belonged to APG and NE. We have the Lincoln that was Clara Ford's personal car from the early 40s. And we have a 1940 Lincoln Zephyr that was part of the Ford exhibit on Treasure Island 1939 fair.
Absolutely outstanding. There's something here for everyone. Fans of sport, fans of aeronautics history, fans of aviation, all told through the lens of vehicles, and it's really wonderful. Come check it out, 2200 Front Street, the California Automobile Museum, open daily 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you can call 916-442-6802 for more details, or visit calautomuseum.org. Bob, thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for coming in.
And like I said, we did have a fantastic time there. James Ryan and I really enjoyed the history, standing reading about the cars. We could have been there all day. And I recommend you plan a few hours for your visit. Take someone you care about and teach them all about the history of automobiles in California and across the United States. Well, that's it. This is another edition of Danny Hauger Podcast and Danny Hauger Presents. The California Auto Museum was amazing. Go check it out at calautomuseum.com. For another episode of Danny Hauger Podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Have a great spring break 2016, everyone.